I decided to go to a 48-hour game jam alone for the first time, and it was brutal. It was very challenging. And this game jam was at the University of Engineering in Porto. So for this game jam, the theme was Into the Loop. And so for this, I wanted to keep things obviously incredibly simple, and I decided to do one of those filthy ass walking simulators in first person. So I went to itch.io, I tried out a bunch of different games, and there was one game that stuck out to me called Burning Snow. Burning Snow is a very simple first-person walking simulator game where you need to find this small firework, can send it as a sort of emergency signal, and find your way out of this massive forest. And you have this additional mechanic where you light haze with matches. That's it. It's super simple. It clearly tells you the story in the first like 10-20 seconds when you play it, and it has a pretty interesting twist in the end. So even though I prefer third-person games, I from the get-go knew that I wanted to do a first-person game for this one. Third person has a big issue, which is called animations. You need to do animations and modeling and texturing for your character, and that takes a lot of time. Sure, there are ways to do these sorts of characters like super simple. Like for example, there's Easy Delivery Co., which is also a solo developer game that has these like characters that are basically like a triangle and a ball for a head, and that's it. And that is actually a very cool way to do a third person game. But first person just eliminates all of that, and I think for now it's probably the best option for me because my god, my programming skills are trash. The game would have like very simple interactions where you just talk to NPCs along the way that you go from point A to point B, some sort of second mechanic, and you would have two different endings of your choosing. While I was writing, there was this one phrase that stuck in my mind, and I think it's from Berserk, the manga, and the phrase goes as following: humanity is a spiral. It does the same mistakes constantly, just in slightly different ways. This is a theme that I always liked. If you've seen my channel, you probably know that I love games from Team Ico and Fumito Ueda, and I love mangas like Berserk. You know, so this theme of humanity and constantly doing the same mistakes is a theme that really speaks to me. So basically, the idea here is to combine the Into the Loop theme with this whole idea that I have of humanity and constantly doing the same mistakes, and with a gameplay that resembles somewhat Burning Snow. So I called this game Bonfire of Dreams, and your objective is to get to this massive tower. So this is a first-person game where you walk with a candle that is lit by this small little fire. And your objective is to get this candle all the way to the top of the mountain. And on the top of the mountain, there is this giant tower. A tower that has a massive bonfire on it. A massive bonfire that needs to be fed or else it will die out. And the people, the civilization that lives around this tower is the one that needs to feed this fire. My idea is that this little fire from the candle is a representation of the fire within you, within each and every single person. And so you literally need to sacrifice yourself, not only the candle, in order to continue the existence of the reality of the bonfire. If you sacrifice yourself, you end up going to the beginning of the game and you need to repeat everything. You go into a loop. When you reach the top of the mountain, you can actually go back, and then you have a second ending where you basically deny your sacrifice to this tower. And because of that, the tower would fall, landing the world into chaos. But because I had no time to do the cinematic that I planned, I made a filthy fade to black with a bunch of text on top explaining that cinematic, with the game shutting down after that, to reinforce this idea of, since you denied this reality will no longer be available to you. You might be thinking that there's probably also a resemblance here to, you know, Dark Souls or Elden Ring, or even Studio Ghibli, right? Studio Ghibli with The Boy and the Heron clearly talks about this as the main theme. And a lot of things in video games and in art, they talk about this because it is such an interesting topic that it is very nuanced, which is, do you continue a reality that you did not build and you maintain a sort of peace, or do you build your own reality and you deny the existent reality, but that will most likely mean that you bring the world into a sort of chaos? There's no right or wrong answer here. It's just, what do you want to do? So for programming, I kept everything like super simple. It's mostly just you walking to the NPC, pressing E to interact. It gives you some sort of context to what is happening around this area, and that's basically it. I put like 3 trigger colliders around the map. So when you go to them, the fire of your candle basically goes out, mostly to force you to find a shrine that is multiple locations also across the map in order for you to light it up. And if you try to move forward without the light being on, you won't be able to. In terms of visuals, I'm not that happy with the NPC that I created. It had some iterations, but it kind of lacks a little bit more personality to it, maybe a beard, maybe like some sort of face or expression. It's kind of disappointing what I ended up with, I'm not gonna lie. But it is what it is. I did actually end up using the tree that I used for the previous game jam, and I just added some snow to it and called it a day. Folks, reuse assets. It's more than fine, all right? Build a library of things, because that will speed up your progress in terms of building stuff. It's insane. I made these little shrines. I did end up going to the Unity asset store to get these VFX of fire and snow. Super basic model for the tower. I got some of these textures also for the landscape from the Unity asset store, and I used this add-on called PSX Retro Shader, which does what the name suggests. It gives a sort of retro look, a sort of PlayStation 1 look to all of the textures and models. If you're a game developer, you know how good fog can be. And in this particular game, I ended up using fog very effect in order to hide a ton of bad stuff. At the end of the day, I'm not too happy with this game that I made. Obviously, there's a ton of problems with this game right now. I just don't think the gameplay is that interesting. Sound design could have been a lot more interesting. Maybe if I actually wanted to do this sort of a loop going on, I think it would have been much more cooler if you go on a loop, if you decide to sacrifice yourself and you go back in the beginning, it would actually be a completely different setting. You know, maybe 50 years have passed and the tower is there, but the landscape has changed completely. Even maybe in the first time there will be a ton more NPCs, but in the second time there will be way less, third time even less, and in the fourth time there will be nothing. It would just be the tower, to a point where it consumed so much that it has nothing left to consume, right? And the fire would be like super, super small there. I don't know. I think there was something much cooler that I could have done with this. I was talking to a buddy of mine about this, and I was mentioning like, man, dude, I think I have something here. I think the problem is just the way that I've made this idea. It's just not it. It just doesn't convey what I really want to talk about with the story. But that's the cool thing about game jams and going alone. Going to a game jam alone really forces you to do things. It forces you to narrow down these concepts so much, and then at the end you will actually see if what you have is good or not. And my God, I still have so much to learn about how to convey an emotion on screen. So yeah, I think that's mostly it, guys. I didn't really win anything in this game jam. I wasn't really expecting to win anything. My objective going to these game jams is to learn as much as I can so I can build up a video game and actually become a goddamn indie developer and sell a goddamn game. That's what I want, because I want to do this for my fucking life, because I fucking love this industry, man, even though it fucking rejects me. God damn it! All right, folks, that's about it. If you want to play this game, I'll leave it down in the description. Don't expect that much. It's really not that great. It's not a good game. And so, yeah, I'll see you folks next time. Over and out.